Pleasure to finally be here after 4 years since the journey began. At first, I was in a point in my life where this material made me happy. I was so wound up that it provided relief. And I believed in it passionately because it felt like the truth of the old stuff, truth about the religious stuff. It felt more close to home. But
well, it didn't have anything to do with the religious stuff. It just felt close to home. In other words, it wasn't validating what's wrong. It validates who you are and what's right.
Precisely. It resonated, and that feeling was awesome.
Good word.
However,
bad word.
We love you very much, but...
Next.
There comes a point. Colloquially, you say it's time to blank or get off the pot.
Meditate?
No, it's time to stop meditating. That's precisely my question. This is why I'm here. For a very long time, I worked on Wall Street 14 hours a day, dialed the phone 1,000 times, heard no's. I built a career out of no's. It was uphill battle, right? Against the stream. But I made a tremendous amount of money, and I was able to do a lot of things that made me happy. Then you come into the life and say, slow down, do nothing, sit there, meditate, the inspiration will come, you will be drawn to action. But then after
we said something slightly different from that, but we'll go with you.
That's how it sounded to me. And then after 2 years of listening to you and the crew, it became apparent. I'm like, okay, sit there and meditate and align, but if I look at Esther's odometer, it reads worse than a Greyhound bus. She is doing things. She's not meditating all day. She's up and going. I mean, I look at your schedule for the year, which normally posts a year ahead of schedule. This is not a person that's sitting there waiting for the universe to... If it were as easy as sitting around doing nothing, we would all be in your living room and in your beautiful home somewhere here in California that you describe on the audios. You wouldn't be coming to us across the country, around the world, doing the notes that it takes, editing the things there's action there. Even people that are even worse than you in the sense of sit back and let the universe bring things, like let's go to Paramahansa Yogananda. You could meditate in the Himalayas, but at some point you got to sit down, write a book, 500-600 pages, and sell it. I've never seen a billionaire meditator in a cave in the Himalayas, but I have seen multi-million, $100 million spiritual leaders who every single week have the meetings, gather together, do things, but you have to move or nothing moves.
Let us explain. First, we want to say we agree with everything that you just said, because...
I was afraid you'd say that.
But
I want some disagreement.
But their place of misunderstanding, that as we visit here for a moment, will click into place for you. We have never said no action, but what we have said is alignment first and then inspired action. And it's sort of what we were talking about as we began here today. If you are out of balance and you become general in your statements, you will soften resistance and allow well-being to move close enough that you can feel it, which is what inspiration is. When you are in that mode where you're being inspired, you're going to be inspired to behavior and action that are so powerful that nothing could stop you from wanting to perform the action. So the distinction is, am I acting outside the vortex or from inside the vortex? Am I going with the flow of the eternal stream? Am I true to the vibrational groundwork that I have laid as I've lived not only in this life but many lifetimes before? Or am I bucking my own current? That's really the question, because so many people work so hard because they are having to buck their own current. When you are in alignment with who you are, there's no current to buck, and then the road doesn't feel bumpy, it feels smooth.
If you're enjoying this video and would like an in-depth understanding of Abraham Hicks' teachings, you can check out her life-changing audiobooks on Audible, which you can listen to for free. taking advantage of the 30-day free trial. You can gain access to it by registering for a free trial of Audible using the link in the description below.
Now, you're right about what happens to a lot of people. We've said that if you've lived a big life and therefore you've had a lot of experiences and therefore you know a lot of what you don't want and therefore you know a lot of what you do want, you've created a momentum that now it's more important than ever for you to stay in vibrational alignment with the momentum that you've created. Otherwise it will beat you up, you see. And so it's all about balance. When you set energy in motion, you got to keep up with it. Many people have enough split energy going on, and then they try to compensate for the split energy through action, and then it's hard work.
So here, let's get specific, because I would probably kill myself if I didn't get specific with you now that I have the opportunity. Because I yell at you so much at the computer.
We will, and we're going to take the time for you to get where you want to be. We just want to say to you that we will encourage your specifics to the degree that you are allowing the answer to come. Because if you get more specific than you're able to hear the answer, this won't be meaningful, it won't feel good, and there won't be benefit. So that's why we're going to take the time to get there bit by bit. So we want to reassure you, you're not going to leave this chair without the understanding that you've been reaching for being fully within you. We're going to take as long as it takes to get there. So just relax and let's unravel it together.
Okay, let's start somewhere else. I'm curious about this because I don't see it. I believe there is a vortex. There are many laws in the universe. One of them is the law of polarity. Is there a vortex? Is there a swirling vortex of unwanted things?
Yes.
Also.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I've never heard someone say the truth about that. And
well,
it starts to feel like, yes, there's a wonderful, beautiful, whirling thing of everything that I want.
Well, consider this.
There's no shot that there's not a whirling thing of things that I don't want, because I can
There are
manifest.
two ways that we want to answer that question.
Okay.
The first is, for everything that you want, there's an equivalent, precise equivalent absence of it. So you get that. We also want to say to you that when you have created and identified and found resonance with the vortex, not being in alignment feels equally awful to the pleasure that the alignment with it feels. And that's why you interpret it as saying there must be some evil source, there must be some opposite source of good, because it feels so bad it must be big. But it's only as big as the absence of the good that you've carved out. It's essential that you understand that.
Now, I understand if scientific.
However,
I do.
The most important, the piece that you're reaching for here, and this is the truth that you are reaching for. Every thought has the right and the power to exist, and law of attraction will respond equally to it. So if you conjure in whatever way a thought and keep it active within you, law of attraction will support that thought. And so unwanted things can become bigger and bigger and bigger, just like wanted things. But the emotional response you have about it is always, every single time, no exception, and this is the truth that you seek, proportionate to the alignment that you have created. In other words, through life, as you become this, and the reason that we describe this vortex as if it is this tangible thing, and we get why it's hard to do that, and whether you do it or not doesn't matter. We just want you to understand that you have created a beingness that the larger part of you is, and to the degree that you align with it, resonate with it, allow yourself to be it, you will feel the fullness of it. And anything less than the fullness of it is going to feel like something that is discordant enough that if it gets big enough, we understand why people want to assign a source to it, because it feels really, really big. But every emotion you feel is about the relationship between who you have become and who you are letting yourself be in relationship to that only. Now, that has to help you to understand that through all that you've been living, you have become. You are love. You are certainty. You are knowledge. You are power.
Yes.
You are wisdom. You are clarity. You are those things. And when you allow it, oh, you've come home. It feels so good. This is who I am. And when you don't
Yes.
allow it, it feels like somebody other than you must be responsible for the not allowing of something that you want more than life itself, because it is life itself.
I don't accept that. To me, 1,000%. Everything happens, I take full responsibility. I came out of that victim mentality a very long time
So
ago.
what was the question about then?
So-
Wait. Just, we want to ask this in a way that you can really hear it. So your question was, all right, Abraham, I accept that I create my own reality. And I accept that there is a force, let's call it the vortex, let's call it God, or let's not call it God, you say, let's call it whatever it is. But I accept that there is this force of goodness which I can choose. But is there not a force of badness that I could choose? Is that what you're saying? I'm deliberate creator. Is there a good force or a bad force that I could participate in? And we say there is the expansion of who you are and the pinching off of it, and that's it. That is it. We'll tell you why we know this, and maybe it will resonate deeply enough with you that you'll get it once and for all, and maybe you'll have to work on it for a little while. This vortex that is hard to get your thoughts.
Understand that there's a buffer of time. But the reason I say about the nortex and the vortex is I come from, rationalizing reasons.
I come from a contrasting environment that put a lot in my vortex.
Correct. And I don't like not doing anything, but I'm not inspired to do anything. And the minute I try to take action, it feels like I'm forcing it. So pull back. That's not inspired action. What are you talking about? You can't move now. Not yet. You're forcing it too early. Okay, go now.
Well, you're overthinking it, and there's nothing wrong with priming the pump. There's nothing wrong with a little action that sort of gets you into action. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong.
I noticed that.
Don't freak out.
I've had so many crazy things happen in the past, and yet I'm still here. I still smile at least once a day. Things are good. And like I tell my grandmother when she tells me that the world is the worst that it's ever been, I'm like, Grandma, we're on
Well,
Facebook.
she's right. She's right. The world,
I don't
the
agree.
world is the worst that it's ever been, and it's also the best that it's ever been, and you get to choose which part of it you play in.
Okay, that's good.
Because it's the most intense it's ever been.
Yes.
It's the most it's ever been. In other words, when you go to a buffet that only has 10 items, there's a little bit you like and a little bit you don't like. When there are 10,000 items at the buffet, there's a whole lot you like and a whole lot you don't like.
Yes.
Don't let it freak you out. Become a definitive person.
Right.
But what's happening is, if you haven't been practicing selecting from the buffet, and you show up at a buffet where there's 10 million things you like and 10 million things you don't like, you get overwhelmed. And that's what's happening to a lot of people. They haven't come to understand that they get to choose. So, and because law of attraction is dishing up for them what's a vibrational match to them, then there are a lot of people, your grandmother is not in the minority at all, who begin to feel the overwhelmment of unwanted things, which makes them come to flawed conclusions that there's somebody out there just messing with you, creating bad things and forcing them down your throat. And that's not true.